Hello friends, today I am sharing these cosmos growing tips which actually work. Cosmos means orderly or harmony in Greek. But these beautiful flowers do bring an element of excitement into any garden with their bright, cheerful blooms. If you are new to gardening, then this is the plant for you to try out. Cosmos plants belong to the sunflower family, and so they are actually an inflorescence containing many florets bunched together. These can be grown from seeds as I grew mine this year, or you can also buy saplings from any plant nursery. Cosmos plant care is easy and requires little maintenance, mainly staking, that is giving the plant support, and deadheading, that is removal of faded and dead flowers from the plant are the two main things needed. These plants require a neutral to slightly alkaline soil and can even grow well in poor soil, but it must be well drained. Cosmos plants grown on very fertile soil have weak stems, they flower late and produce very few flowers. For growing my cosmos plants, I have used garden soil with a little cow dung, manure and some sand. When the plants reached the bud stage, all I gave it was some bone meal and some liquid mix, that is the mustard cake, and a little bit of neem cake. As neem cake makes the soil acidic, I use very little of it, just as a pest control measure. Once the flowering starts, I give very dilute mustard cake fertilizer once in 14 days. I also give some bone meal once or twice a month. Cosmos are drought-tolerant plants, but they require regular watering. But take care not to overwater them, as it can lead to fewer flowers and rotted roots, and finally the plants die out. If you are not sure how much to water, then the best way is to wait until the soil becomes dry and to give it a generous amount of water, and then wait until the soil becomes dry again. Next important thing in cosmos plant growth is the sun requirement. These plants love the full sunlight, but they can also grow in partial shade, though the plants will become taller. Like mine always grows quite tall because I don't have too much sunlight in my garden. If you grow cosmos in a pot like I have grown, then a time will come when the root will cover up the whole soil. Then the best thing to do now is I take a little bit of manure mixed with some garden soil and I add it on top of the root. In this manner I am covering up the roots a little bit, and the liquid fertilizer which I prefer, as I told before, is the mustard cake and slightly neem mix fertilizer. So after covering up the soil, you can see that I am not digging up the soil, because if you do that before adding the mustard cake, the plants might get burnt up, so it is better not to dig. And a little bit of mustard cake and a little bit of neem cake is what I add in water. You have to leave it overnight for 24 hours. Here I am showing it just for the video. Add it in water. And then you can use a diluted solution of this and give it to your cosmos plants once in about 14 days. Just pour it on top and that is sufficient. Now neem is slightly acidic in nature, so what I do usually is after I have given this kind of liquid fertilizer, I wait for a couple of days and I usually give a little bit of bone meal, and I also have some eggshell powder, which is just dried eggshell. Eggs which we use, I just wash it and I left it to dry, and then I have ground it into a fine powder. And that eggshell powder is very beneficial for the cosmos plants, so I always give a handful or two of the eggshell powder also once or twice in a month. It helps in making the soil a little bit alkaline, and all you need to do is simply add the powder on the soil. You don't have to dig it or put it down. Simply add it on top of the soil and as you water, the nutrients and the minerals, they just go down into the soil, and that is sufficient. So here you can see I'm adding the eggshell powder which I had made at home. And after adding the powder, make sure you spread it around evenly, and all you need to do is add a mug full of water, and this much is enough for the plants for a fortnight. One thing you have to make sure is that you don't over fertilize your cosmos plants. If you see that the plant leaves are growing really well, but there are no buds forming, or the plant is simply growing tall without any bud formation, it simply means you have over fertilized the plant and you need to cut back on it. So adding fertilizer once every 14-15 days, that too in less quantity, is sufficient. And the next thing that you need to know is that these plants do grow tall, so it is very important that you give them some support. Like over here you can see I have used this aluminium rod and have tied the plant as it is quite tall, and it was a little bit windy a few days ago, so the plants, they just bend all around, so they might topple over. So this is the best thing to do, is giving them support. So as I told before, staking and deadheading are the two must for the cosmos plants. Now deadheading is removing all the spent flowers or the flowers which have faded. Just trim them off. Here, since I'm holding camera in one hand, I am just breaking it with my hand, but it is always better to cut them off and remove the spent flowers. Even the faded flowers, it is better to remove, like I have one over here. I'll be doing that later on. And once you do that, you will see that new bud formation will happen at the nodes. So deadheading is really important if you want more buds to form, if you want your plants to flower for longer period of time, and if you want your plants to have abundant flowers. It is really important that you remove all the spent flowers from time to time. And if you want to keep the seed, then towards the end of the season you may leave a few flowers for the seeds to form for the next year. But in the initial stages, when they are just budding, it is important that you remove the flowers which are already old and dead. As for pests, aphids are the main pest attack which happens on these plants, and a liquid detergent mixed with neem oil is sufficient. Just spray it when you see aphids, and make sure you don't overwater, otherwise root rot may happen. So keeping these easy tips, you can have these beautiful flowers bloom longer and abundantly in your garden. So that brings us to the end of this video. I hope you found these tips useful, and I hope you enjoyed watching this video, and thanks for watching.